Welcome back to Bowls with the Bard. My name is Cakes. I am your host. This week we are talking with Will Shakespleens. Described by their sister as an abnormal being, and by most of their former English teachers as a pleasure to have in class, Will is a loud and proud, queer, Jewish theater artist and educator currently based in Boston. They have had a particular obsession with Shakespeare since the 7th grade and has chosen to share such passion on the stage, in the classroom, and occasionally on TikTok. Outside of the professional setting, Will is a Rocky Horror shadowcaster, cosplayer, and lover of all things Halloween. Naturally, their favorite Shakespeare play is Macbeth, and as a trans person, they very much relate to Lady M's proclamation of "Unsex me here." They do, however, hold a strong and undeniable love for Cymbeline, the only play that has managed to somewhat match their chaotic neutral energy. Other media obsessions of Will's include all of Ethan Hawke's terrible adaptations of Shakespeare and reminding people that such adaptations exist, anything having to do with vampires, collecting Lego Muppet figurines, and Our Flag Means Death. Will is here today to talk about the women who dress as men in Shakespeare and to open our minds to the many possibilities of casting trans and non-binary people in Shakespeare. I am so excited to share our conversation with you. I had such a blast talking with Will, but first, as always, we got a little high. Y'all, we are back talking about The Plague with Will Shakespleens of the TikTok.
Oh no.
Will, what did you do? Will, what did you do with your quarantine?
What didn't I do with my quarantine? See, when the pandemic hit, I was a freshman in theater school, like theater college. So obviously that didn't continue for the semester. So I started a princess party company. Yeah, like one of those where you go and like do birthday parties at kids' houses. Yeah, it was me, like my tattooed ass. I did it, and I didn't scam, but I made a lot of money doing it.
It. I mean, I've seen your cosplay. Your makeup skills are on point.
But it was definitely one of those things where it was like, I had nothing better to do. I'm just gonna start a whole business, and I did. Rest in peace. I moved to Boston. Back in school. Another highlight of my quarantine. I'm the second person in known history to have been naked in the Northeastern University Library. That happened during the pandemic.
That's an excellent fun fact.
That's what I did. I did everything.
Cool. Wow, you made your own business. That is incredibly
I did.
impressive.
It was definitely it was an ADHD thing that happens when you have nothing better to do and you're an isolated theater kid.
So were you doing that like how they typically do it, where you were like going to people's houses, or were you doing it over Zoom?
So it started with I was bored and I'm like, what if I buy an Elsa costume off of Amazon while all these kids are just in their houses, and I just do quarantine drive-by visits as Elsa. So it started, and I wasn't even accepting money from initially. I was taking donations, and then people in my life forced me to accept money because I need to do that. And so my younger sister and I would drive around with our dad's speaker and a microphone, singing at houses, singing for like little cul-de-sacs of kids. And then when I realized, it was really cute. It was really cute.
That's
adorable. And it was really awesome that like someone who looks like me was able to do that. And that was before I was more as masked as I am now. But it was really awesome, really fulfilling. And then, you know, once things like loosened up a little bit and I realized I was good at it, good is in air quotes, I added a few more characters, tried to make it a more like, I did a few like in-person parties, which were really fun. But I admire all the girlies who can do that. I didn't have the energy to do that, to like take the company across the country when I moved, and I didn't care to promote the business. I just wanted to do it.
That's fair, especially since you were going back to school. But holy cow, that is so creative and so smart and amazing. What a cool way to spend your quarantines.
And I got to fight with a couple dads dressed as Belle who tried to quiz me on Shakespeare, not knowing that like I'm me, and underneath this like tattoo sleeve, underneath this like nude flesh sleeve on my bell gown is a portrait of the bard himself. Like,
You're like, bitch, I am actually Belle. I read. You can't.
One of my first really successful TikToks was when like Miss Willy Wonka guy was going on, like the Willy Wonka TikTok, and a friend of mine actually became like the Miss Frizzle of TikTok, and I'm like, yo, why am I not the TikTok Belle? And dead ass, like,
there you go. Wow, that's really amazing. So now fast forward, we are living in a plague still, kind
You're
of.
still living in a plague.
Yes. And
oh boy.
As we have emerged and started creating theater again and engaging with Shakespeare more often, I feel like there's still a little bit of a plague going on in the Shakespeare industry, maybe one of performative activism, you know. True that. I mean, for 400 years it's been around and it's been done the same way.
And every single time people try to innovate something, it's all performative.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I don't care for much that's being produced with Shakespeare right now.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm very much in the same boat.
We don't need more post-apocalyptic Shakespeare. We don't need it.
Amen.
We don't need it. If you are staging in 2022 a post-apocalyptic minimal set Shakespeare play or anything set in the 1920s, do not fucking talk to me. Get an original.
That's so fair. I've seen so much 1920s Shakespeare. It's not even funny. Good Lord.
And I would say the 80s, but I love the 80s. And I will, all Shakespeare can be 80s for all time. I don't care. But
I mean, I don't mind that. That's like colorful and fun and yeah.
But in terms of how Shakespeare represents people, sorry, I'm stoned. Back on the topic.
You're fine. It's the best part of the show.
The point. Representation it's always been shit, and it's all so stupid and performative, and that's coming from me speaking only on the things that I can speak for as a white person in Shakespeare, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
so stupid.
That's part of why I felt the need to do this for this season.
I'm so happy you are.
So yeah, with you, I know you have some thoughts about some of our ladies who dress up like men.
All of them. I love all of them except for Portia. Don't need to elaborate. Mm-hmm. No, I fucking love them. They're what drew me to Shakespeare. They're amazing. And
they're the best.
The humor of them is amazing. You know, the meta, you know, guy dressed as girl, dressed as guy, haha, funny. That's funny. And so like but just the motives they all have for doing it and thinking back to how these were performed in context is amazing. And especially like how dynamic some of them are.
Yeah, when you were emailing me about what you wanted to talk about, I got really excited because you were like, Imogen does it for necessity, but Viola and Rosalind like do it more for comedy. And I was like, oh, there they go. All the walls, they're coming up for me. I love Rosalind. I love Viola. What do you mean?
I love both of them so much.
But you're so right that like they all three start from this place of having to do it from necessity, but two of them kind of branch off and have it become a device for comedy. Well,
also from just technically speaking, both of them choose their own disguises. Imogen does not.
That is so true. I've never thought about that.
Yeah, that's the basic level. But like, you know, it is played up for comedy with both of them, as it should be. And he tries to do it for Imogen a little bit, but I think even he knows like it's just like she as a character goes about the whole dressing as a guy thing so dynamically. I love Imogen so much. she's amazing. She's just so genuine in her reasoning. She like actually takes smart precautions, at least in what she, like a 16-year-old princess, thinks is a smart decision. And she's great. And she tries her best to cope in an unlivable situation. And I love that so much about her.
It's so true. I had like never really thought about the fact that like the other two are trying to court somebody in their context, even though they're not themselves, whatever that means.
And so is Portia. Even she's doing it for a guy. Like, fine, I'll bring her up in one circumstance.
She is the worst, though. Oh,
that fucking play. Don't.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it one day, but I'll need to be screened out for that.
That's okay. I have feelings about that play as well. I'm pretty sure we're getting into that on our next episode. So we'll that conversation will be had this season. Yes. But yeah, that's so interesting. As we talk about that, like, what are your thoughts on like representation with those characters? Like, who should, if there is a should, be playing them?
I wholeheartly believe that Viola and Rosalind are wholeheartedly non-binary characters. Not like Viola in particular only like becomes a woman at the end because she can. It's not like she doesn't choose it. Neither of them really have. Rosalind, I feel like hers is in much more of like a intentional joke kind of way. The way she views womanhood as like, I'm a respectable lady, haha. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But she's you see her confidence as Ganymede when she's finally given an outlet to, not live under the restraints. And in a lot of ways, comedic as their experiences are, they are very inherent to a non-binary story. However, that applies to both AMAB non-binary people and AFAB non-binary people. It's just such a story of like gender euphoria, and I feel like that can be said about how those roles were originally portrayed too. Like the young actors who played Shakespeare's females and had to dig into that like that, and then dressing up as there's so much gender fuckery going on. And I feel like if you interpret these characters just for the upfront comedy of girl dressed as guy, you are missing out on such more amazing as a much more intricate and meaningful story. And like, so it's not a bad thing to cast a woman. Obviously there are amazingly talented women, but I do feel like getting into that gender aspect, especially with an actor who knows it, can be really, really great and can bring more meaning into those very strange decisions.
I really love that. I took a class earlier this year that was just like a deep dive on 12th Night, and one of my classmates, Kai, hi Kai, is trans, and having his perspective in that class was so valuable, because like he was looking at the I am the man speech and was like, this is just really sad to me. Like this whole speech
as a whole is so gendery gross. Like it speaks, and in a lot of queer people, trans people, it's their favorite play.
Oh yeah.
Because of the every main major character in it suffers from some extent due to gender. And then we have Antonio, the most outwardly gay, aside from like Cassio and Othello, character in Shakespeare. Atop all of that, it's just a queer mess, and it makes me very, very sad when it is told for straight people. I'm talking like she's the manification of it. Like, no offense to Amanda Bynes, you were great in Hairspray 2006.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on the money with that. I made a TikTok while I was taking that class that was asking the question, like, is 12th Night a problem play? We don't usually like regard it as such, but like, what do people think? And yeah, the response was largely like high school queer kids who were like, I love this
I love 12th Night.
so much.
Viola was the first Shakespeare role that I wanted to play. And that was before I was out. And like, and for a long time I thought that she was like the only Shakespeare. Like I was like before I was out as non-binary, I was out as, oh, I'm like the type of person who gets cast as the princess who dresses as a guy. Like that was how I just defined myself for a while. I don't feel like the world could benefit from any more surface level 12th Night takes. If it is going to be produced, if it's going to be produced, it needs to be produced by queer people and about queer people in a queer joy, beautiful light. And I say this as someone who has seen some not too hot queer productions of 12th Night. But the point is they weren't great, but they were all original. I'll tell you that. They were something I hadn't seen before.
And you have to experiment with like what doesn't work to learn what does.
Yeah.
So.
And it's just, I've just seen it used in so many ways. Like when I've seen it done properly, and it's beautiful and it's great. But it's so boring if you watch it like as is.
I agree.
Are we really just gonna do 12th Night as written?
The first couple times I saw it, I did not get what the hype was about. For that reason, I was like, this is a snoozer.
It's a snoozer. Literally nothing happens in it. It's boring as hell. And it's very melodramatic,
Yeah.
like shipwreck. Make it camp.
No, yeah. I mean, really, if it's like the straight typical version, I spend that play waiting for Mariah and Toby and Andrew to come on.
Oh.
So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and Rosalind, I feel similarly too. Just although I do support any production that casts a trans femme as Rosalind's, trans femme people, any sort of non-binary people, just because it's about. Sorry, not trans femme. Well, yes, trans femme. Sorry. Orlando, however, trans mask. That's a trans man, canonically. But
I love that.
He literally has this whole thing about proving himself. I am as worthwhile of a son as you. That he is a trans man.
Oh, that's so good.
He's always been a trans man. Like come on.
It's
and
so
especially
good.
The contrast of both of them as queer people. I mean, I'm a sucker for a good T for T, trans for trans. But Rosalind and feel similarly. Like I feel like it's less about identity and more as a queer person with a distinct look and a distinct confidence, because Rosalind is that show.
I love that. I think
just a whiny little melodramatic trans guy. Hi, me, as Orlando.
Yes. I love that. I love that like Orsino seemingly has some like weird queer feelings toward Viola, but those are like I'm figuring them out feelings. Orlando is full on attracted, like knows he's attracted, maybe doesn't know what he's attracted to at that moment, but like knows he's attracted.
Just a clueless little guy. Yes, and I wholeheartedly believe that, like, as a trans mass person who spent part of my life as a girl, there will always be parts of me that are connected to that. And I'm not saying that men aren't sensitive and men aren't, by that forward in love, but Orlando just handles that ordeal with like his initial like in love bit with Rosalind, like, so it's so Shakespearean heroine of him. Like that I'm immediately gonna go into the woods and plaster songs about her everywhere. Like, you absolutely were not always a guy.
I really love that. I love that you brought that up. I feel like I see a lot of cis women in particular talk about not understanding why Rosalind likes him for that exact reason. They're like, he's a golden retriever, she's so smart.
Not a golden
And like,
retriever.
I'm
He's
like,
just, like sensitive. He's just a really sensitive, introspective person who is not used to having big feelings like this. And whenever he's had them, he's had to repress them, especially in his now ploy to make himself be viewed as like, I am an adequate man. Adequate men don't act like this. Like big men aren't emotional, are strong, you know? And I feel like it connects with me so much as a trans person. And it makes me really sad that even people who do tend to recognize that part of his story do not cast Orlando appropriately.
I like I need to see that now, because yeah, like I feel like I've seen
any
one
of your
take.
listeners are casting a production of 12th Night, any of the above, I'll play any of the trans ones. Orsino can be trans too.
Hell yeah.
My take, however, Imogen, lady.
Okay.
I want to play her. I have played her. I want to play her again. I love her, but I feel like Imogen does not have the queer storyline that Viola and Rosalind do. They are very, very different stories.
I see that for sure.
Imogen doesn't want this. She never does. Again, Viola and Rosalind both choose to dress as a man. Imogen never does, and as soon as it is always a method of escape for her. It is never she never gains any more confidence dressed as a man. Actually, she has a lot less. She's a lot more complicit and pliant in the latter half of the play when she's dressed as a guy, like kind of being used for like being pushed around for plot purposes. Whereas in the first half, she's like fighting with Cloten and fighting with Giacomo and being an amazing person. I love Imogen so much. But for her, like it's obvious in the text. Also, she doesn't talk in Act 5. That's the joke. Is that she doesn't speak at all. I feel like a part of it is because of she doesn't find confidence dressed that way. She doesn't, and I do feel like there can be a little bit of like, especially if I were to play Imogen, I would I do definitely interpret it in like she likely has some feelings going back to Posthumous and fulfilling that dutiful wife role after she's experienced time as a man. But I don't feel like that experience would make her want to be a man. I feel like it would just make her not want to be a more traditional woman, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
She just doesn't have the same experience that they do. Like even She Who Must Not Be Named can go into a courtroom and slay the house boots down because she's dressed as a man all of a sudden. Imogen never gets that. It literally is a means to an end.
That's so interesting. I want to see this in rep with either As You Like It or
I would want to see this in rep with As You Like It.
Yeah.
With both a trans Rosalind and a trans Orlando. Primarily a trans Orlando. Please, God.
I think it would be cool.
Why is every Orlando not trans?
Just like put them
in the text.
Don't get me started.
Oh, now I want to get you started.
I don't care what's in the text.
I really don't care what's in the fucking text. He is dead. We don't even. These probably aren't half the shit he initially wrote.
No, I've at least said it twice on this season, but I'll say it again. There are people alive writing plays right now that we could pay money to for writing those plays, and instead we do free domain Shakespeare. So if we're gonna be cheap,
stupid,
make it worth it. It's got to be worth it. Like
that time I directed a production of Romeo and Juliet, and the first up until Mercutio's death, I cut the script to like be a full-on comedy. It was just a full-on comedy. All the dick jokes, like I cut half of like all of Romeo's complaining, aside from the part where he could like roll around on the ground and be dramatic. And like I just kept the dick jokes and cut everything else. It was so fun. It was hilarious.
Yeah, and people will pay attention and then be gut punched at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, it got sad. But for example, the Tybalt and Mercutio fight scene took place in a public pool where they fought each other with floaties.
I love it.
The opening scene with the Capulets and Montague dudes with Bite My Thumb was two like New York construction guys slinging their little lunch bags, paper lunch bags at each other. It's why are we doing anything like what if you're doing this free domain Shakespeare? You're not confined to anything. Why?
Truly.
And it already has this reputation that you have given it about being stupid and lame.
So like, I don't know, spice it up.
Spice it up, please. It's your word. Your word is like Shakespeare's usually boring. No one's gonna want to sit through it. You're doing it. Make me want to sit through it.
Truly, yeah.
I do not want to sit through Uncut Hamlet. I will say it. I don't want to sit through Uncut Hamlet.
Never.
Ever. I love the poetry in Hamlet. I love the character of Hamlet. And we're not going to discuss him because that's a thing. But like, what normal audience member wants to sit like a normal theater patron looking to get interested, looking to get invested in this play? Like, if we want people to get attached to Shakespeare to continue it, progressing, we are doing a horrible job teaching kids from the get-go that you will hate Shakespeare. And then when it is produced, it's like for these upper elite people who want to watch the same guy talk about nothing for a whole play. I will happily sit and listen to a guy talk about nothing if it's a nice little BBC audio recording that I can follow along at my own pace. But like that, this isn't how we get people into Shakespeare. This is how we turn people against it.
I'm like thrilled that the Globe has, I think iJoan might be closed or closing soon, but they just did like a new play called iJoan, which reimagined Joan from Henry VI as a non-binary person. And I think most of the rest of the cast was also non-binary.
Okay, Globe doing something good.
Yeah, right? It's really cool. There's been a lot of backlash, but they've still been full. And it's because for all the backlash they've received from like whatever the old white patrons that have come for however many years they've come, they've got all these like new young queer audiences who are filling those spots. Yeah, like it's that easy.
Am I a fan of the new jukebox musical and Juliet? I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I know she sings Katy Perry's Roar at some point. So I can inherently say I probably will not love it.
Yeah.
But I am so fucking happy they made Romeo and Juliet a jukebox musical.
Uh-huh.
Like it's exposing the story and the characters to people.
Yep. And the kids are excited about it.
Excited about it. I don't care.
Yep.
Just make it interesting. I don't care if I like it or not. Make it interesting.
Yep, truly. I think it's so important. Like, part of the reason I wanted to talk with you was because I know I'm older than you, not significantly, but I am older than you. And I think it's really important and something that doesn't get valued enough in the Shakespeare industry to talk to people younger than you about like what is important, what do I need to learn, what have I been missing.
These plays aren't exclusive, yet the people who dominate the conversations about them act like they are. Like they aren't public domain plays that everyone has access to with centuries of research and publicly available performances available. This conversation is not reserved for the people who have said that it's their conversation. It is such an intersectional conversation, and it's such bullshit that younger people and people without reputations have been excluded from it.
Yeah.
I have no intention to sit with an old white man and talk about Hamlet. That's like, and convince him that my opinion is valid.
I've tried way too many times. It doesn't work.
Exactly. Like, what I really, really appreciate is that, there are young people trying to take Shakespeare into their own hands. There are few of us, but unfortunately we've had to do it in ways that like aren't aligned with the Globe, are not even trying to budge with the larger theaters because there's no point. The more elite Shakespeare community has shut out pretty much all attempts at progress, and it makes me really sad because it used to be my dream to like direct for the Globe or to work for them at some point. And now I'm like, y'all don't deserve me.
Honestly, I think tiny rant that's off subject, but
Do it.
I think the theater industry would be very much benefited by decentralizing from places like London and New York City and thriving in places like Draper, Utah. Yeah.
That's literally why I'm not moving to New York as a theater educator. It's because New York's great. It's full of people like me, but that's literally it. It is full of people like me.
Yep.
They do not need me there.
Yep.
They do not. They have plenty of other weirdos.
Yep.
You know.
My boyfriend and I are moving to Colorado in a couple of weeks for
That's
that exact reason. Yeah. Very
Where do you live now?
I'm in DC right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's still art scene wise. That's like that's okay.
Yeah.
Boston isn't huge.
Yeah, I think we're probably similarly sized in terms of theater scenes. Like
absolutely,
it feels like a big theater scene, but everybody knows each other.
Yeah. As someone who was just in their first professional play in Boston, where everyone knows everyone, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like, and that's what sucks about like why are the Shakespeare elites cooping themselves up in Stratford? We know what's in Stratford. We wrote the plays in Stratford. Go somewhere else and see how those plays have been interpreted. We don't need to be redigging up history and seeing how shit has always been done. I don't need to learn more about Billy. I don't.
Amen.
I honestly, like, for the sake of me, a Jew with him tattooed on their body, I don't want to know more about him because I don't think I'm gonna want to know what he would say. So, like,
yeah,
like we don't need to worry about that. Why are we? And I'm also sick of like doing those Shakespeare productions that exist solely to showcase one actor. Like I love Sir Ian McKellen. I think he's amazing. I think they're all amazing. But I want Shakespeare plays were founded in community. They are rooted in community, in diversity, performed for the groundlings on the bottom to the fucking queen herself in the same theater. They were pop culture. Imagine like in 100 years from now, they're doing a like dramatic adaptation of Twilight, where it's like the only people who get to like talk about Twilight are like old, very like grimy, rich white guys, and they're like casting themselves to just do dramatic readings of Twilight, and it's just a bare minimal set, just one of them being like, "This is the skin of a killer, Bella." That's literally what we're fucking doing with Shakespeare.
I really hope deep in my heart that Shakespeare was the Twilight of their time.
That's how I refer. That's how I introduce it to my middle school students. That's why I'm working in middle schools, because I can corrupt their brains right as they're about to be introduced to Shakespeare. They're like, whoa, hold up, slugger. It's not that bad.
That's what they need.
I wholeheartedly hope that an executive of the Globe Theater listens to this podcast.
I hope so too. So to wrap things up a little, beyond the plays that we've already talked about, do you have any like plays or characters that you would like to see portrayed with the influence of non-binary, trans communities?
I mean, Puck and Ariel, they're fairies. Portray them as fairies. That's the biggest given. I feel like any production of Midsummer that makes Lysander a woman, makes Lysander a man, is in the same boat as Twelfth Night. Like, just why? One of my favorite ways to interpret Midsummer that I unfortunately haven't had a chance to direct yet, but I really want to, is like looking at it as Athens as a religion, as like a metaphor for religion. A lot of things. I'm not gonna get into that, but like Lysander's a woman. Come on.
I can see that.
Helena should be. I don't care. Every character in Midsummer's gay, so like they can all be whatever. But Lysander, in particular, Hermia and Lysander have to be a queer couple. I don't care if they're MLM, Wolowa, just make it gay. I also am a big fan, although it's extremely overdone, of swapping Titania and Oberon's lines.
Okay, yeah, no,
I've done it, but every production is currently doing it, thinking that they're being really unique with it. you're not.
I just saw a production that did it.
I staged a production of that in 2020. It's old news. What else? Hamlet. Give me some more trans Hamlets. Hamlet can be an allegory for anything, but he's especially an allegory for gender. And again, it's similar to Orlando's plight to conform to masculinity. Cast a trans guy, non-binary person. I think would be really, really sick. Especially like, I don't know, like a person of color. Anybody who does not conform and is struggling to conform to some extent. Yeah. I like power couple girl bosses Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, but
ooh, yes.
I just want Lady Macbeth is such a non-binary character, literally begging Satan to cut her boobs off.
Oh, I love that.
I have never related to a statement more. So yeah, Lady Mac is, I don't know if she's a character like that I would cast as a non-binary person, like by default, but I mean, she's non-binary.
Yeah.
I play Lady M. I fucking love playing Lady M. Any of the default golden retriever love interests, why are they dudes?
It like literally makes so much. I'm so glad that you said that to me because it makes so much sense.
Love at first sight makes so much more sense when you're gay. You know, have you heard of the term U-hauling?
I have not.
So U-hauling is a coin turned by the Sapphic community because Sapphic people have a tendency to move in with each other really fast. It's just like queer relationships. We just go on speed mode, and I love it. But it makes so much more sense. Like if we're complaining about these love at first sight situations, make them gay. They don't make them make sense. Everyone in the audience will get it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure.
Obviously, Romeo and Juliet want to die for each other within 5 days. No. That's not a love story. We're not even gonna get into that. I'm trying to think of like fucking all of them should be trans. Just give trans actors a shot, even when it's not like an explicitly trans coded character. You know, I can play roles that I don't identify with gender wise. Shakespeare's original actors did it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why are I don't even know if gender in a lot of cases should even be considered Shakespeare. Like it's such a genderless art. It was founded in gender, like two dudes kissed each other in front of the queen. That's how Romeo and Juliet had to happen. You know, like
literally doing illegal things.
Has always been gay.
Yeah.
It's always been genderless. It's always kind of evolved beyond what we've given it credit for in terms of like representation in some circumstances. And anybody who is trying to make it traditionalist is missing the whole fucking point. That can be described both in gender expression on stage and just making shows boring and traditional. Like Shakespeare was never traditional. It was two dudes making out in front of Queen Elizabeth I while people like were slapping this. Why? Yeah, it's gay. It's gay joy in a lot of circumstances, and we're really missing the joy part.
Cool.
A lot of the gay part is just performative and is gross.
We need more joy.
We need more queer joy and more joy. More dick. Start doing productions of Shakespeare that cut everything except for the dick jokes.
The kids will love it.
The kids will love it. Because they don't even know that Shakespeare has dick jokes. And they think therefore art thou Romeo thinks that means where are you Romeo? They think that thee, thy, and thou are formal.
I know.
They're not getting the fun part because we set it up so they never see the fun part. And Shakespeare is going to die.
I agree.
Who has been dead. And if we keep going on this road excluding our progressively diversifying theater scene, we are going to make it die for good.
Yep.
I don't care who wrote the plays. I don't care who they were written for. But they, as they are now, are public domain and should be for everyone to do. And everyone to enjoy.
Why we do this podcast. You know.
Why you do this lovely podcast and study Shakespeare every day. Your discipline is astounding.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Uh, it, I probably have a workaholic problem. It's okay.
And it's why we're here.
Yes,
The
yes.
good, the bad, the ugly, and the gay.
And the gay. I think that is an excellent place to wrap up.
I would agree.
Will, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so glad it was an opportunity for us to finally meet.
Yes.
I adore your work. I think it's
I adore
amazing.
you.
Thank you. I adore you as well. All right, well, that's it for today.
Thank you, guys.
If you enjoyed today's episode, you can follow Will and Bowls with the Bard at the handles either on your screen or in the description. Please rate, review, and subscribe. It helps so much. And tune in next week as Bella Harris teaches us how the Shakespeare industry might do better by Jewish people. Until then, bye y'all.
1,000 sighs to save. Oh, lay me where sad true lover never find my grave to weep there.